And you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Muhammed, for showing everyone how it's done. So my name is Leonard Richardson. I'm a senior software developer. I work on the back end at bookshop.org. And I've added some pictures that I took yesterday at the National Print Museum of Dublin as a way of encouraging you to go check it out. So I think everyone in this room will enjoy what they have there. So bookshop.org is an online bookshop for the US and UK. And our differentiator is that this is intended for brick and mortar local bookstores to use as their online shopping website and to take care of the fulfillment for the online orders. In January, we launched an e-reading platform so that local bookstores could get a piece of the ebook market. And I personally joined Bookshop because I want to preserve the role of local bookstores as physical spaces that are important to the intellectual life of their communities. Bookshop is actually the second project I've worked on that adopted Readium. In the 2010s, for about 8 years, I worked on an e-reading system for public libraries at the New York Public Library. We produced full native mobile apps using Readium 1, and then in the early 2020s, we migrated to Readium 2. Back then, Readium was a much less mature state than it is today, so I think I'm in a position to talk about the difference between these two decisions that we made. When we adopted Readium for the library project, it was the big appeal was that it was the most mature open source e-reading stack, and we pretty much had to pick an open source stack for this project because the main point of the library project was to rescue American libraries from a state of vendor lock-in and move them away from proprietary platforms. At Bookshop, the rationale was much different. Platform costs, vendor lock-in, still definitely a concern. But the biggest value we got from Readium when adopting it for the second project was how much design and implementation work it saved us from having to do in the first place, now that the platform was much more mature than it was when I was looking at it for the library project. The biggest bottleneck for the Bookshop launch was the publisher audits of our source code. And we were able to get those audits started, if not completed, very quickly, thanks to the Readium mobile SDKs and the LCP content protection. I'm just going to go into a tiny bit of technical detail for those who are interested. Sizable majority of Bookshop's customers read ebooks through our Android or iOS mobile app. These mobile apps we built from a shared React Native code base. We used a fork of the React Native Readium project by 5 Stones to drive the platform-specific Kotlin and Swift toolkits. And that has saved us from having to write a lot of native platform-specific code. Minority of our ebook customers read books in their web browsers. For these, we have written a web browser based on a fork of R2D2BC, a web implementation of the Readium architecture written by Aphrodita Moriki, old colleague of mine at the library. Access control for mobile clients is managed, this may be on the next slide. Yeah, here we go. Access control for mobile clients is managed through an LCP license server. Access control for the web clients is based on something that I think of as not technically LCP, but it cryptographically, it basically has the same properties as LCP. On the back end, our server and ebook processing pipeline are written in Go. This lets us just import the Readium Go toolkit and the LCP server as software dependencies and then call their APIs directly. We use this for anything that requires looking inside an EPUB prior to delivering it to the customer. So that includes quality control, as Muhammed mentioned, generating free previews, indexing the text of the book so that it can be searched, encrypting content, and also preparing a Readium web manifest file, which is what is used by the web reader. Just mention a couple of the problems that we faced. A lot of what Muhammad said, especially regarding the publisher ebook quality, are problems we've also run into. A lot of our issues, I think, may be specific to our decision to use the React Native and to drive Readium through a React Native layer rather than calling them native code directly. There's just a lot of bits of the Readium API that are difficult to access through React Native Readium. Not a Readium-specific problem, but if anyone else happens to be doing this, my front-end colleagues at Bookshop would like to talk with you about it. Another thing I want to mention is a lot of the time, the easiest way to customize a piece of software is to fork it and customize a fork. We're actually operating off of forks of all of the components that I've mentioned in this talk so far, and that, of course, creates technical debt. The Readium architecture actually makes it possible to do a lot of customization without forking, which is really great, but it definitely does happen, creates technical debt, and then there's also ongoing work to keep our forks up to date with the upstream code. A couple things I want to mention that we have planned for the future. We would like to switch our web reader to something based on Readium Web or Thorium Web. We evaluated it when we started this project. We decided it wasn't ready, but we've taken a look at it again recently. We think it would be ready if we were starting from scratch today. But since like I said, the vast majority of our users are on mobile, we are focusing on improving the mobile experience rather than revamping the web experience. However, that is something we want to do, especially as more functionality is added to the Readium ecosystem and can be taken advantage of by Readium Web or Thorium. The other thing I want to mention is that as more e-reading platforms adopt LCP, we see LCP as a point of integration to drive interoperability. We would like to see basically people buy ebooks from bookshop.org and then be able to read those books in any reader that they care to use. We don't see our e-reader software as a distinctive value add. It's more of a convenience for our users. If users have a hardware device or a different app that they would like to read their books in, we'd like to support that, and we see LCP as sort of the crucial point of integration that can make that possible. And I try to make this really quick in case there were any time for, so we'd have time for any questions, but also please grab me later if you'd like to talk about Bookshop or any of the technical aspects that I just covered. Thank you.